Hi everybody, I'm going to share some thoughts with you about the left thumb on violin because a few people have requested it, and I know that people really want a rule and something they can just tell me what to do and I'll obey it and everything will be fine. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a rule for the thumb. There's guidelines and I'll share those with you. The thumb is very individual and it depends on your hand shape and your geometry and how long your thumb is, how long your fingers are, how long the palm of your hand is. I have a very short, square palm of my hand, but I've got some students, the palm of their hand is almost 50% longer than mine and it's narrow. So just different personal geometries can greatly impact where your thumb placement goes. For instance, very tall people, or people with long geometry in their hands, I should say, their thumb will poke up more than a short person. Short person's thumb is barely peeking up. So that's one of the obvious main differences in different personal geometry. Also, short people's thumbs tend to lay back slightly more. I know mine sure does. I have worn off the varnish right there. Can you see where it's gone? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Can you see where my thumb has worn a big bald spot right there? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's how I play. I'm very secure in it and it prevents me from squeezing. And I'm obeying the other rules and the other guidelines, which I'm going to talk about with you right now. So, number one, the thumb is not static. So I think that's where a lot of tension and squeezing builds up, is that we plant our thumb where we've been told that it's correct to plant it, and we try to keep it there, and the hand just is eventually going to build up tension and start to squeeze. So it took me a while to realize, but the thumb is active. It's constantly reacting and reciprocating against the fingers, not in a opposable thumb way, just in I'm a member of this hand too, and I'm gonna respond when the fingers are doing something. So when you're playing, I find that my thumb is rocking and rolling and moving around just in a supportive way. So don't think that your thumb needs to be static and stationary and never move. Number two, the thumb is not flat on its pad when we play violin. It's oblique. It's more on the edge that's closest to the index finger. Now there are times when we move to an oblique position because of the thumb being moving and dynamic. The thumb is very dynamic, but in general the thumb is going to park on the oblique corner. Let me try to show you that. Okay, here's literally how my thumb is on the violin, and you can see it's not like that, it's like that. Okay, so maybe you're trying to get your thumb perfectly flat against the neck, and you know what? If you hold your thumb up higher, it is going to be more flat on the pad. My thumb goes down below the first finger tape, and so I am on an oblique angle of the thumb. If you're a person who holds your thumb up across from your second finger, your thumb will be more flat on the pad. But people need to know that there's some play, there's some choices, and you're not stuck with one or the other. Okay, so ask yourself which type you are, and hopefully when I finish making all of my points, it will help you to know whether your thumb is going to be more oblique or on the pad flat. You need to know that the thumb should shift exactly in pace with the rest of the hand. It doesn't shift early to prepare and it doesn't shift afterwards after you've found your note. They shift all at the same time, and the thumb stays the same in the same relative position to the fingers. If thumb tends to be across from the first finger, it should always be across from the first finger. If it's across from the second finger, it should always be across from the second finger. Okay? Generally, speaking of, is your thumb across from the first finger or the second finger? I think the most common is at the first finger, but that's probably just my perspective as a short person. Acceptable placement for the thumb is across from the first finger, across from the low two, and more rarely across from the high two. That's pretty high. But a lot of people say it goes right between the two fingers and it just peaks between 1 and 2. Now my thumb hangs out back here. I'm way below the first finger tape, and that's just how it is. And I've researched that to make sure that I'm not doing some horrible thing, and it's acceptable. Okay, so there's a lot of choices that you have. Play with it. If you are a taller geometry person, try with your thumb across from between the two fingers first and see if that works. That's probably going to be your spot. If it doesn't, then try moving it back to the first finger. Try experimenting with how high up you allow your thumb to poke above the fingerboard. And finally, if your thumb is up near first and second finger, then here's your answer, you probably will be more on the flat part of the pad rather than on the oblique side of the thumb, like I am. I go to the oblique side of the thumb because my thumb is down lower. But these are all variables and elements that you need to explore. And make a list of them and just explore them for about a month, and you'll start to really dial it in. Okay, a couple other tips. When you play on your G string, your thumb is going to dive down a little bit lower. So if this is where your thumb is all the time, it's not going to stay there when you play on the G string. It will go down a little bit. And as you go to the E string, it'll rise back up to its default position. Okay. Another point is your thumb is stationary as a pivot point in vibrato. So while the rest of the hand is moving, the thumb is kind of like a little kickstand or a little placeholder. And although mine jiggles a little bit, it's not going to be completely stationary or tension will build up, but it's not really participating. It's acting as a stabilizer for the rest of the hand. So thumb needs to be light, dynamic, and alive. Okay, the last point I want to make is pretty advanced, but it won't hurt you to hear it. The corkscrew motion that the thumb makes as you shift from first position to third. There's no corkscrew yet, but as you start to get to fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth and all the way up to top of your fingerboard, you corkscrew underneath the neck, clear over to this other side, but do not let go of the neck block. You got to hang on to that for dear life. Even short people like me, you'll learn to stretch. The reason for that is because the thumb helps to push our hand down without pulling our violin away from our neck. It's a very good feeling to have the thumb pushing the violin into our neck as the rest of our hand is moving away from us. It helps us to feel secure, and it really helps to propel our shift downwards. It powers the shift, so to speak. So I guess let me just show you that in motion. What's a nice high scale? Did you see that? And I'm hanging on for dear life. And there's my wonky thumb completely under the neck. But an important note is that my thumb is not under the neck to hold the neck in place. That's just where my thumb likes to be. And a lot of people try to hold their thumb under there because they think it's going to help to give them opposable thumb and something to oppose their fingers against. That's a whole different topic. But you don't want to put your thumb under the neck for the purpose of opposing the downward pressure of your fingers. Wish I could tell you what video to tune into for that. If I can figure out which one it is. I know I have one. I'll link it to this video. Okay, so I hope these tips have helped you, and it's impressive that you're being resourceful and searching out solutions online. Bravo to you, and keep up the good work. See you next time.